For today's In Detail segment, we're going to be reviewing study spaces in apartment lofts, and all the examples that we pulled are from the Vancouver area.
As you remember from the slow home test, the study, if appropriate, has good natural light and is properly sized to fit a desk without wasted space or restricted circulation. That's a big challenge with apartment lofts in Vancouver, isn't it?
It is, and the biggest challenge is what we're seeing is a lot of developers are labeling deficient spaces in the plan as studies, and really they're nothing more than closets, and it's a real problem.
Exactly. No, and it's something that we haven't seen since Toronto, which I suppose makes sense because both Vancouver and Toronto are more intensely urban spaces, and so there's a lot of pressure to add more stuff to these plans, even if it doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, exactly. So as you remember from the What's Wrong with This House book, we have rules of thumb for the study spaces, and they are that they have to be a type and a size that is appropriate for the scale of the unit and not be a falsely labeled or leftover space in the plan.
It also is important that they be appropriately located with respect to the other uses in the house and that they have good natural light. So you brought some examples to show us?
I do. I've got some good examples and some bad examples. So we're going to start out with a good example. This is a good example of a study. So as you can see, the study space is big enough to fit a desk. It has natural light and a view to the outside and a good relationship to the living space in the house.
Yeah,
so this is a good example. If we can all have them like this, we'd be laughing, no problem. So now we're starting to get into some areas that are a bit of a gray zone. So in this example, they've actually put the study as part of a shared space with the dining space. And this is where it becomes a little bit marginal. We've got a lot of wasted space actually in the middle of this plan, and then they've kind of put the desk in the corner.
Yeah.
We see that quite a bit, and it just
great,
doesn't work very well. This is another example that you have to be careful of. This is labeled flex, and anytime you see flex on the plan, you got to be careful. Although this space is a good size in terms of a location, for a desk and adjacent to a window, the problem is the living space is actually pretty small, and there's a proportional issue, and I think that the living furniture is going to need to come into that space a bit in order for that.
Well, and also, I mean, if you just, when you look, the bedroom is now pulled off of the
with
light,
those,
right?
Yeah, so it needs that access to the light for the bedroom to be
adding
functional.
that den and making the bedroom deficient.
Yep, exactly. So now we're going to look at some typical examples of what to avoid with studies. So here is our classic, which is right off the entry.
It's a closet.
It is a closet.
It should be a closet.
This is not a den. This is false labeling at its most obvious, and it really it has no light, no view, no nothing. No one's going to want to sit in there. That's for your skis, not to sit and do work, right? This is another example. Tech Nook. Anytime we see the word tech center,
another closet.
E-closet,
It even has.
It literally is the proportion
returns.
of a closet. I mean, who's going to want to sit there right in the hallway, right in the circulation? It's a bad example. That is not good. Now we're getting into some tricky tricksters here. Here we've got a room, so we think, oh wow, we've got a room and we've got a window, but the window is actually facing into the hallway. We have no side light at all, so there's no natural light. There's a bit of light from the dark hallway, so you're going to have, this is not a good example of a study. It is falsely labeled. So then we're now getting into larger spaces, and we see this in two-bedroom condos where they say two-bedroom plus den, and den is that word that you've got to be careful of. We've got a desk area here in this alcove, some space for furniture, but there is no natural light. This door, I mean, it's still a closet. I mean, really, you can't really say anything more than that. It's just a closet. And finally, this is where this gets really sort of out of control. We've got a big space here where we've got a desk, and then we've got room for furniture. They've tried to make it with a glass door look like it's got more light, but it really doesn't. It's in the darkest place in the plan. It's also in a regular shape.
Well, that's really interesting. I guess the lesson to take from this is to just keep things really simple.
Yeah, I mean, it has to have natural light. It has to have a place for a desk, and it has to be well located within the plan.
That's right. And if you're a home buyer, beware of spaces on the plan labeled study, den, office,
tech closet
that don't meet those basic criteria. Yeah. That's our in detail analysis of study spaces in apartment lofts in the Vancouver area.
See you tomorrow.